Okay, 40 plus years later, when you suddenly show up, the former classmate of the president, you're presenting your papers to your former classmate. What was that moment like?
That was actually quite special. Of course, look.
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed. A story a day.
Now, Nick, you will be able to associate with this story right away because you spent time as a kid overseas, right?
Yes, I did.
Your dad worked in the embassy.
I think it was the second secretary or first secretary.
Oh,
Yeah.
so this is perfect for you because our guest today, imagine we're in the mid-70s right now. It's 1975, and your dad gets posted to Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
Comes over with the family as ambassador to Belgium. Right? So he presents his papers to then President Jomo Kenyatta.
Okay. Ambassador to Kenya, ambassador to Belgium.
Belgian ambassador to Kenya.
Okay.
Right? So the son is put in, local school. Just happened to be St. Mary's.
Okay.
Where the son of the president is.
All right.
And he happened to be in the same class
Okay.
as the son of the president.
Uh-huh.
Are you okay? Are we together so far?
So far, so good. 1978?
75.
75?
Ambassador comes in, presents his papers.
To the president at that time, Jomo Kenyatta.
His kid is going to
St. Mary's.
where he happens to be in the same class as.
Uhuru Kenyatta.
Very good.
We are together up until that point.
Okay. Fast forward.
Yes.
Right? He family leaves Kenya, posted elsewhere. The sons grow up, school, university, all that stuff. Enter the foreign service, travel the world, and last year, 2021. Remember the son who was in the same class as the president?
Yes.
He gets a posting to Nairobi, Kenya,
Wow.
as ambassador.
From Belgium to Kenya.
Yes.
Just like his dad.
Just like his dad.
And who hands in the papers?
His classmate.
That's a beautiful story. And I always ask Jeff, what were you doing in class when people are making this kind of ties? But you weren't in the same class?
No, they were a little ahead of us, but we remember them.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah. Ambassador Peter Maddens joins us live in the studios. Did I just about say that right? Good morning.
Yeah, you got it right.
So,
Ambassador Peter Maddens.
That's me.
How was Uhuru Kenyatta as a child in class? Was he concentrating? Was he looking outside the class, the window? When
He hasn't changed a bit.
You didn't get that. It doesn't change a bit.
He's the same.
He's exactly the same. He hasn't changed a bit.
Wow. Wow.
And you didn't know it was him. Did you know it was the president's son then when you were...
Oh, yeah, sure, of
You all
course.
knew?
Yeah.
What was he like? Was he a cool guy? Was he laid back?
Like I said, he hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy, laid back. He was funny. It was, he's part of the gang
Yeah.
that I, kind of jammed myself into, or that my sister and I jammed ourselves into, let's put it that way. I mean, the gang existed because they had been in together. You know how this goes in these schools. You have cliques, you have friends who spend their lives together. It's a little different these days with international schools because you have lots more rotation, but in those days it wasn't that. It wasn't like that. So you would come there. The good thing about it, the cool thing about it was that we were all accepted, and we were brought into into these gangs and cliques and groups of friends as if we had been there forever.
Did you ever sneak into State House when you guys were kids?
No, we never got to do that.
Okay.
At least we didn't get to do that. I'm not saying that nobody got to do that, but we didn't get to do it.
Tell me, when your father was posted to Africa, was that a tough decision?
No, I don't think so. I mean, my dad was fortunate enough to be to be a relatively young ambassador. He was 45 when he was posted here. So it was quite an honor to be posted, and it was Kenya was, even in those days, Kenya was a plum assignment and very attractive And our setup here in Nairobi is actually quite nice. So it wasn't a hard decision at all. I guess the most difficult decision, for me at least, because I spent the first year or two in boarding school in Belgium, and that was a little harder to have my family in Belgium and me here. My family in Kenya and me in Belgium, and only see them a couple of weeks every so often. But that, in the latter half of my dad's posting here, that we changed that, and I came and joined, finished high school in St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Actually, I finished the A levels. I came back to do the A levels here at St. Mary's.
Also, you were classmates during A levels.
Yep.
Nice.
Did you ever get a chance to meet old man Kenyatta?
Me personally, no.
Okay.
I never got a chance.
Okay.
My dad did.
Yeah.
Of course, he presented credentials, and I guess he had one or two meetings after that. But no, I never got the chance. Sadly.
Okay, 40 plus years later, when you suddenly show up, the former classmate of the president, you're presenting your papers to your former classmate. What was that moment like?
That was actually quite special. Of course, look. Belgium has 110 embassies across the world, or 110 diplomatic postings across the world. Of that, there's about 95 or 96 which are embassies, and a quarter of those change ambassador every year. So you have somewhere between 25 and 30 people who present credentials to the head of state in their new posting every year. Habitually, there's one or two, maybe three, who are sons or daughters of former diplomats, or sons or daughters of diplomats. What never ever happens, especially not in a republic, is that the son of an ambassador presents credentials to the son of the president, to whom his father presented credentials.
That's like 1 in a million chance, huh?
Yeah. I think we kind of both realize that. The president, I could see him enjoying the moment. With masks and stuff like that, you don't see the full facial expression, but it was just the eyes, and he was laughing. I mean, he was shaking with laughter, actually.
And rubbing his hands.
Yeah, the way he does, right? Yeah, exactly. And he was shaking, and when Uhuru laughs, or when the president laughs and shakes with laughter.
You can call him Uhuru, you've done it since your children.
You notice when he laughs, you notice, and it was pretty cool. Something I did, which is a little bit out of the ordinary. I had a picture of my dad presenting credentials to Mzee, and I framed it and gave it to him. Which is kind of out of the ordinary with these credential ceremonies, because you're not actually allowed to give the president anything but your letters. But I fixed it with Foreign Affairs protocol. I said, look, I have a gift for the president, and they said, no, you can't give him a gift. I said, well, this is the gift, and I showed them the picture of my dad presenting credentials to Mzee, and then they said, you know what? Yeah, okay, you can give him that.
So now, like, after all that, his eyes have lit up, he's rubbed his hands. Did he call you aside later on, then you guys reminisce about the good old days?
That's still supposed to happen.
Oh, it's not yet happened?
That hasn't happened yet.
You said he's the same as he's been since he was a kid.
Yeah, it'll happen. I'm sure it will. I mean, he's been busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that happening. You get a call one Friday and say, "Hey,
I'm coming.
What are you doing?"
I'm coming over. Come on over. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it'll.
Oh, he'll come to your place.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
So I guess from the experience with your dad moving, you said the postings were like a year or some.
No, it was in my dad's day. It was 3 years. We had in my dad's day it was 3 years, and in my career it's been 4. They changed the amount of years you spend. So with my parents, I was born in Paris and went to kindergarten in Romania, learned how to read and write in Chicago, finished high school here in Kenya, and then while I was at university, my parents went to Guatemala and Saudi Arabia.
How was Saudi Arabia?
I have no idea, because this was when I had already joined the service, and I had just gotten married, and and Chris was pregnant with our oldest son. Chris is my wife. Was pregnant with our oldest son, so I actually never got to go to Saudi Arabia. So, from the stories I heard from mom and dad, it was actually quite interesting. Not necessarily well, no, it was interesting. It was an interesting immersion into a completely different culture.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
And now you run how many countries around here?
Well, we got 5 I'm ambassador in 5 countries apart from Kenya and the UN.
Which are?
Somalia, Eritrea, Madagascar, Comoros, Seychelles, and then Kenya, and I'm also perm rep to the UN here in
Habitat.
That's one job description. Now those are 6 different payslips.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, most of my colleagues are like that. Most of my colleagues, especially from smaller countries, most of my colleagues, some of them have even cover even more countries. It's not easy. It's a little hectic at times. But we're used to that. In Argentina, my previous posting, I was ambassador in 3 countries. In Tanzania, in the early 2000s, I was ambassador in 4. So it's part of our way of our organization.
Oh, okay.
The one thing that I am doing though, on this time, because I'm ambassador in 5 other countries apart from Kenya, there's going to be a lot of travel involved in covering those countries. Want to go to at least once a year to each one of the countries, if not more. So what I decided to do is to offset my carbon footprint from that travel. So I'm going to be planting 500 trees a year for the 4 years that I'm here. And I've got this set up with the Forest Service that they take my 500 trees and put them wherever they think are necessary. So.
Oh, you don't go and plant them physically yourself?
No. Well,
maybe like the one for the picture.
I can plant a couple.
For Instagram.
Well, I was going to say for exercise sake, just to get a bit of a workout once in a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Instagram, come on. Whoever does anything for social media?
All of us. So how's the experience? How does it feel like to be in Kenya? Like, do you enjoy the Kenya Africanness?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I spent part of my youth here, then spent another 5 years in Tanzania between 2003, 2008, and now I get to come back. "Quote unquote" home. It really does feel like home. You know how it is with high school friends, right?
Yeah.
I really do feel that, and it's the first time ever that I've had that feeling of coming into a place that not only I'm familiar with, but that people know me as well, and accept me in their group of friends, which is really cool. We've had 3-4 years, and then 5 again. I'm on my 10th or 12th year of living in East Africa. No, it feels right. It really does feel right.
Do you get some deja vu moments, like when you show up?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I keep telling my wife I get thrown back to my 17-year-old self every half hour. I get to live in the same house that I lived in when Dad was here.
Oh yeah, because the ambassadorial house is still
it's
the
same. Same residence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you learn Swahili? Oh, you must be very good at Swahili, yeah?
Not very good. I can last a couple of minutes in any conversation, but that's for a specific reason, because the first 3 minutes of every conversation in Swahili are the same.
Habari yako, jambo, hakuna matata.
Habari za familia, habari za kazi. Yeah, exactly. That's why you can last the first 3 minutes.
Then after that, you tell me I've got to go.
But you know how an expat learns Swahili when he moves here, right? The first 3 words?
It's usually an insult.
No. The first 3 words when you move here.
Jambo.
Second word is fundi.
Ah.
It's not as a tourist. It's when you come and live here. Fundi, why? Because something in your house will be broken and they're going to call the fundi.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And the third word is pole. Because the fundi comes, makes it worse, and goes pole. Jumbo, fundi, pole. That's the order of the words that expats learn Swahili.
I love it.
I'm sorry.
I love it. Well done. No, that's something to remember, isn't it?
Jumbo, fundi, pole.
Pole.
Wow.
during these times of COVID, obviously the last 18 months, 2 years, pandemic has been devastating. And you just stated a moment ago that you want to be doing some traveling in the region.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah,
Honestly?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It already is difficult. I mean, it's tests and vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, you know what? Look at Mr. Djokovic in Australia. If you don't follow the rules that are set out by the experts, you're going to be in trouble. So, distance, masks, sanitize, vaccines. Get tested whenever you need to get tested. It's a hassle, but it's worth it because you need to you need to get it. We need to get over this, and the only way to get over it is to follow the rules that the experts have decided that we need to follow.
Yeah,
that's why they're experts.
And true that. And luckily for you in Europe, or most people in Europe and the West, vaccines are readily available. Here, we're still struggling.
Well, from what I understand, here, at least now, in the beginning, yes, absolutely, it was a horrendous situation where there was absolutely a lack of availability of vaccines, et cetera. But from what I understand now, in most of the continent, I don't have the exact numbers for Kenya, but in most of the continent, there's actually a huge risk of many vaccines going bad because they haven't been administered. So the balance between availability and vaccine hesitancy needs to be looked at really closely. But I think here in Kenya, you're actually doing very, very well. I think the amount of vaccines that are arriving in country are sufficient for the pace at which vaccination is happening, so that you don't risk losing many vaccines. And from what I see from our side, absolutely the vaccines are being made available at the right kind of pace. And by the way, the government is insisting. And rightly so, absolutely rightly so, that whenever a vaccine donation is made, that those vaccines are valid for the amount of time necessary to get them in people's arms.
Have you ever been in a country where they were actually holding elections?
Sure, Tanzania, Argentina, twice, parliamentary elections and presidential elections. While I was in Argentina, there were also presidential elections in Uruguay, so I saw that one. In the States, although I was working at the UN, but in the States we had two sets of elections, 2008, 2012. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, when I was a kid and we were living in Chicago, actually in New York by the time it was 1968, my dad asked me to write him a letter because he was away. He asked me, you know what, after the election, write me a letter and write me what you thought. So I always say that I wrote my first political report when I was 8 years old.
How does it compare, let's say, in South America as compared to Africa?
The politics around elections are very much a function of the electoral system. If you have a first past the post system like here in Kenya, it's going to be a different kind of election than a proportional representation system with coalition governments. So that's one thing that's going to make it different in any case. The history in Argentina, for example, they've had this history of wild swings between the Peronists and the non-Peronists, and they've always gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, and that also has its consequences for the way the election campaign is run and for the way the election is run. Here in Kenya, it's a little more subtle. But I think you have the same kind of vacillation, but it's a little more subtle and it's much more localized. I think if there was a famous Speaker of the House in the United States that said all politics is local, that's very much the case here. I think you have a lot of the politics is very, very localized, and it basically the political structure becomes a pyramid, but at each level in that pyramid you have the same kind of struggles, and that's an interesting process to observe, actually.
So other than planting trees and leaving your carbon footprints, what else are you going to do?
Well, we have a couple of businesses that have interests here and that are trying to establish themselves. We have guys in IT. We have guys in water treatment. We have guys who do power generation. Relatively speaking, small scale, and we're trying to help them get through the bureaucracy and find clients and do their business. Apart from that, we're going to do a little bit of we're going to try and do a little bit of also cultural interaction. See if we can get some Belgian artists and musicians to come here and interact with Kenyan artists and musicians, etc., and vice versa.
What's a typical free time for you as you enjoy Kenya?
Oh, so far it's been, we've actually traveled a little bit in the country. We've been to Masai Mara, but we've also been to Naivasha, we've been to Nanyuki, we've been down to the coasts, we've been to Loisaba in Laikipia. We like to travel. My wife and I like road trips, actually. We like to travel by car. So we're going to be doing that. Seeing my friends from all those years ago. We missed 40 odd years of.
So there's a lot of catching up.
There's a lot of catching up to do. So yeah.
When you call a friend after 40 years, what's the reaction like?
Thank you, Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Because we've actually been in touch. We've known what we've been doing, how many kids, et cetera, et cetera. It's not like 40 years ago when you pick up the phone and said, hi, it's Peter. Remember we were in school 40 years ago.
Which Peter?
Exactly. But nowadays, with Facebook, most of them we've already been in touch and talked to each other. Facebook and social media in general. Yeah. Hey, there's a reason why you do social media.
Your best recollection of Peter as a 16 or 17-year-old when he first came to Kenya?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. There's one or two that I can't tell on the radio, but that's a different story. 16-year-old boys. Actually, you know what? There was a I don't know if he's listening, but Nick's a friend of mine, and with him and his brothers and dad, we went out to man some control posts for the Safari Rally. I think it was in 76 or 77, and that was amazing. That was an absolutely incredible experience.
When you come back 40 years later, have you seen improvement? Are you sad to see some things have never changed?
That's another question that I'm not going to answer, Jeff. No, the saddest thing. I think this country has done absolutely amazingly well. One of the things that I noticed 5 years of being ambassador in Tanzania was that probably the most important thing a country a country can do is nurture and develop its middle class. Without a middle class, there's no development. There's no wealth creation. There's no wealth to distribute. And that's one of the things that Kenya has done incredibly well. At least here in Nairobi and in Mombasa, in the big towns, there is a vibrant and well-developed and growing middle class. And that's a hugely important thing, and that Kenya has done very, very well, and you can see that here in Nairobi. I mean, the development of this town. I remember Globe Roundabout with the Globe Cinema and the big Bougainvillea.
That's right.
Right now, it's what? A flyover.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you can like it or not, and you can think that it's a good thing or not that you have that kind of development, but it does show that there's a huge amount of development and a huge amount of activity going on, and that's nothing but a good thing.
Yeah.
What's that big revelation? That's a big positive thing that came into your life because of COVID. Some people are like, "Wow, COVID was bad, yes, but because of it, I've also taken a new path in some things." either you or someone in your life?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, living first in Argentina and then here, which is always a huge distance away from where my boys are, my kids are, my two sons and their wives and our granddaughter. So COVID has made it a lot more difficult to be in touch with them. Thank you, Zoom, and thank you again, Facebook, because we were able to be in touch with them and interact with them quite regularly. Our little granddaughter didn't even blink when she saw us in real life compared to on a screen. So for her, it was exactly the same person, which was, and she was only a little more than 1 year old at the time. I mean, now she's 2 and a bit, but she recognized us as if we were on this, as if we came off the screen. Me personally, my wife will tell you that thank you, COVID, for making me start walking and having more, being more active.
And spending time at home with the family.
So have you seen the Belgian embassy residence in Mathega?
No, but if you send me the pin, I'm free from tomorrow till Monday.
It's an interesting building. It's a building that was built by a Frenchman in the 1950s, and he was inspired by Versailles. So it's a very classic French design architecture with lots of columns and lots of windows and lots of natural light coming in. It was then bought by a Kenyan, an Englishman, an English Kenyan called Sorsby, who wanted to turn it into the National Gallery. At the time, this is the late 50s, early 60s, that was a little too far from town to be successful. So they then decided to put the gallery somewhere else, and he sold it, and we bought it in 1964 or 65. And it's been our residence ever since then. I kind of want to believe it's one of the more extraordinary buildings in Nairobi, and one of the more extraordinary embassy residences for sure. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I really am. Plus, we have the land that it's on is rather large, and at the bottom of the garden there's the embassy that comes out on Limuru Road. So.
Okay.
So I get to walk to the embassy through my garden. It's the best commute in the world.
Can't get any better than that.
No, absolutely.
Peter Maddens, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for your time. Good
Pleasure's
luck.
all mine.
Congratulations, Balozi, for
Asante
coming
sana.
home. Coming home. Do you feel like it?
Ninarudi Yumbani, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if you ever need any more Swahili lessons, I'm always just a phone call away.
Yeah, you need the pin for my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're free from tomorrow till Monday. Yes, I got you. Yeah, absolutely.
Good memory.
Very good. And from Kenya, what happens after this posting?
Normally I retire. I got 1 or 2 more years in the ministry, and then I retire. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What a life.
That's true. That is true.
I want to be you when I grow up.